Hey guys, so I've decided that I think I'm gonna just start doing my podcast recordings inside my car. It's just easier that way, no distractions really, other than hopefully whoever decided to park behind me doesn't come and bug me. But at least I don't have to worry about my roommate walking in or anything really distracting me from what I'm trying to talk about. So today I wanted to talk about something that I've been trying to coin a term for it. Looked it up to see if there was anything really already called it, but I couldn't find anything. But so basically what I want to talk about is the anti-fairy tales in our lives, the stories that we tell ourselves that we're a part of or that are affecting our lives, or maybe the tragedy fairy tales, kind of like the tragedy romances that Nicholas Sparks is famous for, where it's this great, wonderful romance story, but that at the end somebody dies or something crappy happens and it's just kind of ruins the whole story. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is, well, I've been trying to think of a way to get these podcasts started and what I could possibly really talk about that would be helpful to anybody. And last night I ended up having this dream that kind of sparked this thought in me. And I'll tell you about the dream. So I don't remember a lot of it, and it was, it's now 3 p.m, so this was a while ago that I had the dream, but I kind of recorded it vocally just so that I could remember the basic gist of the dream. But anyway, so one of the main parts that I remember in the dream was I was inside some kind of I don't even really know how to describe it, but it was like, so how you have your fairy tales and you got the story that's going on and all the characters and stuff. Well, imagine that the characters in each of these stories are actually just actors, and that they only are in the story whenever the story is being told by someone else, okay? And then whenever the story isn't being told by someone else, they actually exist in another reality in their own individual lives, okay? I think that's probably the best way I'm gonna describe it. So I was in this other reality where they existed in their own lives. And the very first fairy tale that I recall seeing was this story about a little boy who gets lost at sea. And the story is mostly a little bit about that, of him getting lost at sea, but mostly about his grandfather, who devotes all his waking hours to try and find this grandson. And he is just out at sea for weeks and months, just searching everywhere and not really finding anything, no signs of his grandson at all. And I'm watching this story from the other side, and it's like on a kind of a big movie screen almost, what is being played out by this grandfather as whoever is telling this fairy tale story is telling it. And on the side that I'm on with the big screen, it's this room that has all these different aspects of the fairy tale in it on shelves and stuff. And there's this main guy in the room, I would call maybe the curator of the fairy tale. And he's in charge of getting the things off of the shelves and putting them in through the screen, which was interesting, through the screen into the fairy tale whenever it was talked about by whoever was telling the story. Also in this room was this little boy who played the character of the grandson. And so at one point in the story, the grandfather has really kind of had it all. He hasn't made any success in finding the grandson, and he is just exhausted from searching and trying to find his grandson. And at this point, he's been at sea for weeks or months, and he's probably pretty delirious. He's run out of food and clean water, and so he ends up, I don't know if he has a vision or if it's just part of his delirium, kind of oasis type vision, but he ends up seeing, like, in these clouds before him, his grandson, and which is played by this little boy. And at this part, the grandson is supposed to reach through the clouds and touch hands with the grandfather. And so the curator guy prompts the little boy to go and reach his hand through and touch hands with the grandfather. And that's kind of the end of that little boy's role in it, because that's pretty much the end of the fairy tale. So what happens is that the grandfather, he's so upset and so negative because he hasn't found his grandson. He just believes that his grandson is gone and that he's never going to find him, and that his grandson is, wherever he is, he's dead. And the kind of the weird point of the grandson reaching out to him was actually to inspire hope in the grandfather and to get him to keep on searching, because if he looked just a little while longer, another week or 2 weeks, he would find his grandson. And his grandson was, dying. And that's how he was kind of able to reach through this, veil of sorts or whatever, I don't know what you want to call it, and touch hands with him. But it was supposed to inspire hope. But because of the attitude of the grandpa, it had the opposite effect and ended up inspiring more negativity or sorrow in the grandfather. He believed that the reason why it happened was because his grandson was dead, and he was reaching through and telling him that he was gone and that he should go home and move on. And so that's what the grandfather ended up doing, was going home and moving on. And like, I saw this all happening, and I knew, the background of what the whole point of him reaching through was actually for. But that was the point of the story. The point of the story was that the guy didn't listen, and that it ended negatively because he was too upset and he didn't listen. And I did not like that at all. I was pretty upset about the story ending that way, and I was like, that is ridiculous. Talking to the curator guy, I was like, why in the world do you guys end it that way? Like, the grandpa is not in the frame of mind where something like that kind of answer, that kind of prodding, is not going to help him. It's just going to push him over the edge into spiraling further negatively. It's like someone in a position like that needs a real answer. They need something tangible, something more forthright into showing them that there's hope. Okay? And I said it would be a real easy tweak of the story. Like, he can still do everything up to that point. He can still reach through the clouds or whatever and touch hands with his grandpa, but instead have him maybe point to a bottle floating in the ocean with a note in it that was written by the grandson to his grandfather, saying that he was still alive, or inspiring hope in the grandpa that he is still alive and that he should continue searching, that he's close, that he's just so close. Sorry, it was like shaking my car doing that. But he's just so close, and that if he just spent a little bit more time, if he just persevered a little bit longer, he would find and save his grandson. And the curator thought that was an amazing idea, but he said there's no way that'll work. The people in charge who have written the the story would, they would never go with that. That's not the point of the story. That's not why they wrote the story. And I guess they get upset anytime anybody strays from how the story is actually supposed to go. And I said, you know what? I don't care. I don't care if they get upset. This is how we're doing the story the next time it's told. And so that's what we ended up doing. And then the dream kind of shifted, and I was kind of watching this other story that I didn't really see all of it, so I don't know what the story was about. But I know that the character was, there was a character woman in the story, and she looked, this is going to sound super weird, but from what I remember anyway, she looked like a chocolate covered shrimp that had been kind of like flattened. So, why? I don't know. What her story was, I don't know. But in her reality, she was married, and her husband and she had been struggling trying to have a child. And they've been wanting a child for so many years and just yearning and working for this, and it was never happening for them. Well, I knew that the boy who played the grandson in the other story didn't have a family. Why, I don't really know. I just knew that he didn't have a family. And so I arranged them to come together, because everyone in this land had kind of a really negative outlook on life. And a lot of it had to do because of the stories that they were involved in telling all the time, never having any kind of happy ending. And so they believed also that there was no happy endings for them either, and that nothing was ever going to work out for them, that no one cared, that nothing mattered. And it was terrible. Like the negativity that was there was tangible. It was so negative. And I brought this boy to this woman and her husband, and we arranged that when he wasn't, overacting in his fairy tale, that he was going to be their son, and that they were going to be his parents. And it was amazing. Like, I don't recall seeing the husband at all, but the woman was overjoyed. And she couldn't thank me enough. I mean, she was in tears, thanking me just over and over again for helping her in this situation. And during this point, I knew that there was this looming sense that the people who had written the stories were aware of my meddling in the fairy tales. And they had arranged this meeting that they were going to come to this land and talk with all the actors and characters and set things straight and get me out of there and get things back to how they were supposed to be. And at this point, when this woman is thanking me, there was this other woman who had been there, I guess, already, but I wasn't really aware of her. I wasn't paying attention to her, but she was a part of kind of like the managerial aspect of this realm. And she was, up until this point anyway, super upset with me and just fuming on how to fix this situation, and upset at me for, meddling and ruining things, the proper order of how things were supposed to go. But she was watching this situation with this other female character, and she saw the love and joy and emotion in this woman. And it sparked something inside of her. And it made her realize that she wasn't seeing the whole picture, that she was so focused on things going according to plan that she didn't notice how miserable everyone else that she had power to affect was, because she was just going along with it. And the woman, the mother character, after thanking me so many times, she ended up running up to me in tears and just embracing me and just bawling. And this other woman, the managerial woman, saw this happening and she broke. And she ended up running up to us and embracing both of us and saying, "Don't worry anymore." Sorry, some of the aspects of the story for some reason choked me up a little bit, but don't worry anymore. We are here for you. And it was at that point that I woke up from the dream, or started to wake up from the dream. I just kind of laid there in bed, thinking about it, pondering on this whole story and why I would have this dream and what it really meant. And it made me think about kind of what I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this, the stories that we tell ourselves, and how most of the time we tell ourselves tragic fairy tales about ourselves and about our lives. You know, whether it's we're not good enough for something, or someone doesn't care enough about us, or we're never going to accomplish such and such thing. It's terrible, and it drags us down. I know, because I do it to myself all the time. I tell myself all the time I'm not good enough because of this has happened or that has happened, so that must mean that I am not worth loving, that I don't deserve to have a happy ending in my life, whether that's with, you know, finally finding someone that actually loves me inside and out, and that I return those feelings for, and finally being able to move forward in a romantic aspect of life, or whether it's someone else who has been, you know, like in the story, been trying and searching and struggling for years to be able to have a child, and then just coming to the point where they figure it's never going to happen, that it's never going to work out. Or people like in the first story who have lost someone or something, and they believe that they're never going to find that something, either the actual something ever, it's just gone forever, or they'll never find something like it again. Like, you know, love is a real easy one to throw into the mix and do. Like, say you found someone that you felt was everything, and then for one reason or another they left, and maybe it was your fault, maybe it wasn't, but you build up this story in your head that you're never going to find that again, because you searched again, you tried again, and you just keep getting beat up and kicked, and you give up because you tell yourself that was it. That was the sign that you were done and that you're never going to find that kind of love again. And like in that story, maybe you're giving up a little too soon. Or maybe you shouldn't give up at all. I mean, that would be the real moral of the story, is not give up. Don't give up on yourself. But it's hard. I know it's hard. I give up on myself all the time. And, you know, maybe it's too soon. Maybe I don't do enough. Maybe I'm not reaching out hard enough. I don't know. That's not really the conclusion, though, that I'm trying to get to. What I'm trying to get to is that in this dream, I played this role of helping to find a solution to these people's problems, both on the other side of the fairy tale and on the inside of the fairy tale. And I think that that is a strong message to myself and to all of us, that life is big and it encompasses a lot of different aspects. And in many ways, it's impossible for us to be successful at different aspects of it alone, without the help of somebody else. But we live in a world that is so self-involved that we don't reach out to each other. We don't see someone in our life who is struggling with a very specific problem that we know what they're struggling with, but we either feel powerless to help, we don't know how to help, or we feel too awkward to actually reach out to that person. And that is a huge problem. And that's a huge reason why so many of us are not succeeding at different things. I mean, let's go back to the aspect of love. What if the person that you lost had someone close to them that was also close to you that could have played a mediator role and reached out to either you or them or both of you and helped you to figure out how to remedy what had happened, to get you to actually talk about what had happened? Wouldn't that have saved you tons and tons of grief? Of course it would have. Or what if they saw your situation, you were struggling to try and achieve something, and they had even just the smallest ability to reach out and either push you towards that, to keep on trying, to keep on moving forward and to not give up, or they offered a hand to help you with the situation. I mean, with the aspect of finding a child, if you're childless, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do for someone else outside of lending support and emotional aid. But sometimes there is. Sometimes there are aspects of the situation that the other person hasn't looked at. And so by bringing yourself into the situation, you can help them find the different aspects that they may not have seen. And you can help them find a solution to the problem. But the problem is that we don't do that. We don't reach out to one another. We just watch each other struggle. Because we're the characters that believe that that's what life is. A struggle. And that there's no solutions, that there's no happy endings, and it doesn't matter what we do, we're going to fail in one way or another at some aspect of life that is really, really important to us. And I'm done with that. And that's why I wanted to start these podcasts in the first place, and why I'm, saying this specific story now, is because I am not going to be a bystander anymore and watch people that I care about fall short of their hopes and their dreams and their happy endings in their own personal fairy tales. If I can do something, I'm going to do it. And if I can increase my sphere of influence by doing something like this, then I'm going to do that. And so I just want to let you know, whoever you are watching this video, if you need a helping hand, I am here. Okay? We can talk, we can communicate. If it's easier through text or email, it doesn't matter to me. Reach out. And if I know that you're struggling with something and I know who you are, I know your story, I will reach out to you. Okay? And I want to inspire that in others. Because our world's going to fall apart if we don't start reaching out more. Because we're going to start losing people left and right who are tired of the struggle. And they're tired of the pain. And they're tired of feeling like they're never going to succeed at the thing that they want the most. And I'm not okay with that. Okay? So let's all not be okay with that.